Shalom, shalom. I'm going to start off this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well, they teach well, while learning truth 100% according to the Bible. I also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophets, servants scattered abroad the four corners of the earth, and shalom to the Akwaf, which are you sisters that are sincere in your children, shalom. And in today's video is going to be another video from the brother Arrows and Indignation 144. And it basically, you got these people talking about how all of these things that are happening as far as with these, protests and things of that nature that are, transpiring throughout the whole United States, that they are ultimately planned, And we know a lot of these things are planned, but, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, the Lord, is the one that's ultimately controlling all things, even Esau, Edom on the left-hand side. So we know all of these things are ultimately working according to the Lord's will and for prophecy to be fulfilled. So, all of these things are happening is because the Lord is the one that's stirring it up and allowing it to happen, So I'm going to get into this video so we can basically hear what it is that they're talking about, pertaining to the situation that's occurring. And I'm going to get a few precepts, and the Lord's willing to be edifying. So with that being said, I'm going to get into the video. Fair use under 1976 Copyright Act. Not getting paid for this video. It's only for educational purposes only.
Department of Defense Directive 5240.01 is based on intelligence activities, and this is going to be super alarming. It's very alarming to me. Essentially what this directive does is it regulates the DoD's intelligence collection, retention, and distribution on civilians. And this has been around since 1982 and has largely been untouched since 1982 outside of a few changes dealing with like technologies and stuff like that. But 2 weeks ago, on September 27th, Catherine Hicks, who's the Deputy Secretary of Defense, she approved an executive order authorizing the DoD to amend this to allow the United States military, the Department of Defense, and its intelligence arms to collect, retain, and distribute intelligence information on U.S. civilians. There's laws against this. There's a law called the Posse Comitatus laws. When I worked in special operations, we would do joint efforts with the FBI, the DEA, the Border Patrol, Customs. We do all these operations, and we would always get briefed by lawyers warning us of the Posse Comitatus laws. We couldn't even take a picture of a license plate. Couldn't report on a civilian because our citizens should be protected from our military. Our military does not exist to collect or to use force against civilians. Now, apparently, that has changed. Those laws have been overridden by this executive order 5240.01
Right. And you just basically heard what it is that he's talking about. He basically said, that, back in the day, the U.S. military, wasn't allowed to harm its citizens. But we know that ultimately, Joe Biden put a law into place before he got out of the White House to where, him and Kamala Harris came up with a solution that if there's any, unrest or anything of that nature that's ultimately occurring in America, that they can use U.S. military troops to ultimately, basically to delete, the American citizens, man. And that's what we see coming, it's starting on a small scale with what's happening with those riots in Cali. But we know that ultimately all of these things will happen because it's all part of prophecy, man. The Lord is going to allow these evils and these things to take place, right? And I'm going to go to a precept just proving that, This is Isaiah chapter 19, right? And I'm going to start at verse 2. In the KJV, and it says, and I, right? That I is talking about the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, man, who's in control of all things, right? Both good and evil. He's the one that's controlling these events that are happening in the earth, the wickedness that is happening, the peace that is happening, all of these different types of things. The Lord controls it all, man, right? So it says, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, right? Talking about these people here in America, Babylon the Great, because we know this place is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, right? And it says, and they shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city and kingdom against kingdom, man. And that's what we're beginning to see happen on a small scale. Here it is. You got these protests. It all started in Cali, but now you looking around, it's happening in more states, man. You got it now taking place in Atlanta, Chicago, Boston, New York. So, I mean, these things are fastly moving around the whole U.S., man. And the Lord is the one that's ultimately controlling that, man. And I'm going to go to a precept just to prove that. This is Isaiah chapter 45, going to start right at the point, verse 7. It says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace, right, meaning good times, and create evil, meaning bad times. I, the Lord, do all these things, right? So Yahweh Shem Yahushua is the one that's ultimately controlling everything that we see occurring around this place, America, man. You know, all of these different evils that are, you know, fastly manifesting upon this place. The Lord is bringing this stuff around to this country, man. You know, as it tells you in this precept right here that I'm going to get as well. This is St. Matthew chapter 10, verse 34, right? And it says, think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword, right? That sword represents people being at odds, people being at variance, which means being divided. And that's what you see in this place, America, man. All of the people in this country are divided, man. You know, the military is up against the troops and the other people that are in this place, man. Everything is just in derision, man, chaos. And we know that ultimately these things happen when a society, right, or a rulership is coming to an is end, man. Right? As it tells you in this precept right here. We'll get that. Bear with me. This is I'm gonna go to the book of St. Matthew, chapter 12. And I'm going to start at verse 26. And it says, and this is in the NKJV translation, you know. It said, if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then will his kingdom stand? Right? And that's what we're ultimately seeing happening in this place, America. You got all of these different people that are divided against themselves, man. And we know that, as it tells you in the book of Mark, chapter 3, verse 26, and if Satan rise up against Satan, then he shall have an end, right? And we're seeing this place, America, come to his end by the way that the people are ultimately, you know, rising up against the government, man, rising up against the authority, man. You know, and we know all of this is going into the time of Jacob's trouble, man. You know, we're fastly seeing that time manifest upon the earth, man, especially in this place, America, man, because we're at the end of this place, America's run. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. That's why we're beginning to see all of these evils manifest, man, you know. So I'm going to go to this. This is Jeremiah chapter 30, right? And I'm going to start at verse 4, right? And it said, and these are the words that the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah, right? Verse 5. And it said, for thus saith the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear and not of peace, right? And that's what you see happening right now in this place, America, man. No peace is coming to this place with those small riots and things of that nature that are ultimately occurring in this place. They're going to get way worse, man. You know, these situations that are manifesting in this place are only going to get worse, man. You know, America is not going to come back, man. This place is, you know, going to continue to get worse and worse and spiral more out of control, man. Right? So it says, verse 6, ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his face on his loins as a man in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness, right? And that's going into all of the evils, right, that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is ultimately about to bring upon this place, that you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be in fear, man. Mainly a lot of men and a lot of women, you know, they're going to be in extreme fear for all of the things in which it is the Lord is about to, you know, bring upon this place. And I'm going to go to a precept just to, you know, clarify that, right? This is St. Luke chapter 21. And I'm going to start at verse 25. It said, and there shall be signs in the sun, right? We've been seeing a lot of that, you know, signs of chariots, things of that nature. You know, it's been a lot of things the Lord have been showing to these people, you know, mainly those that are believers and then to other people that may not believe. But he's been allowing these signs to be made manifest and shown in the world, proving that we're coming to the end of this place, man, right? And it says, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth, distress of nations, right? With perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, right? And this is the point, verse 26. And it says, men's heart fell in them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, man. And that's what the Lord is getting ready to do. He's getting ready to shake this earth, man. As people know it, especially this place, America, Babylon the Great. That's why we're seeing these things happening in this society now. And we know that it's only going to intensify and get worse, that this is the beginning of those greater evils that the Lord is going to bring upon this place, you know, as it tells you in 2nd Edges 14. And I'm going to get that scripture after I'm done reading this. This is Jeremiah 30:7. It says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, right? Your so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, which makes up the biblical Hebrew Israelites, right? And that's ultimately why you're seeing the Northern Kingdom, you know, doing what they're doing now with these protests, man. They're tired of being oppressed and afflicted. And we know that all of these things are going to turn into the time of Jacob's trouble, which what we're fastly stepping into, right? But it said, but he shall be saved out of it, right? And that's only talking about the Lord's elect, man. They're going to be the only one to be delivered from these evils that's about to come upon this place, right? But this is only the beginning. Like I said, you know, what the people are seeing now, which is what they're ultimately thinking is bad. Just wait on it, man, because, you know, the Lord has got greater evils and greater, you know, things that are going to come upon this place, Babylon, man. I'm telling you, people ain't seen nothing yet, you know. As it tells you in St. Matthew 24:8, all these are the beginning of sorrows, man. The beginning of mournings, the beginning of, you know, times like never before, right? So this is 2nd Ezra chapter 14, verse 16. It said, for yet greater evils, right, meaning bad times, than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter. Verse 17, this is the point. It said, for look how much the world, right, shall be weakened through age, so much the more shall evils increase upon them that dwell therein. And we're starting to begin to see those evils increasing, man, because we're at the end of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man's rulership, man. You know, as it tells you in 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 9, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And as we get closer to Esau, Edom coming out of power, the more you're going to see evils increase upon this earth, man. You know, and we're seeing those things happening now with everything that's occurring, you know. So I'm going to get back into this video so we can, you know, finish listening to what it is that they're saying. But, you know, all of these things are being divinely orchestrated by Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai, man. Right. And I'm going to go to a precept just to prove that as well. Right. This is Isaiah chapter 46. And I'm going to start at verse 9 in the KJV. And it says, remember the former things of old, for I am Yahweh, and there is none else. I am Yahweh, and there is none like me. Verse 10, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand. I will do all my pleasure, right? So ultimately, everything that we see happening, like I said, is the counsel of the Lord, man. You know, and it been, you know, predestined from the beginning for this place, America, to be destroyed, man. It tells you about that in the book of Daniel, chapter 2, man, going into the kingdoms, you know, the 4 kingdoms that were going to rule on the earth. And we're at the end of this last one, man, which is the revise of the Roman Empire, which is being ran by the Edomites, right? And we're coming to the end of them being in power, right? That's why we're seeing so much evil beginning to manifest in the earth, because we're coming to the end, man, you know, of this world as people know it, you know. And the Lord is getting ready to bring in it that followeth, which is Jacob, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, which are the biblical Hebrew Israelites. You know, you may have speckled birds that, you know, that look like the heathen nations as well. You know, you might have Israelites that look like so-called white people or so-called Chinese people, because we know it's not about color. It's a bloodline thing, you know. So you have speckled birds whose seed line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as well. But mainly, we're coming into that time where Esau is about to be thrown out of power. And the Israelites, right, starting with our Lord Yahushua, is about to rule the earth in righteousness, man. So that's why we're seeing all of these evils ultimately happening in this place, because we're coming to the end of it, right? So I'm going to get back into this video.
Overridden by this executive order 5240.01, and it goes further than just collecting. It actually states that the United States military to stand against civilians and use force to include lethal force against civilians.
Now see, I told y'all. Sometimes when you say I was right, it just feel good to say I was fucking right. It's probably why people gamble. They probably don't even care about the money. They probably just had that gratification of being right. I told y'all, and I wish I was wrong in this aspect. Look what's going on in California, huh? Look at what the folks doing. I seen a man walk into a store, didn't even use the doors. The man walked. The windows was busted out. Man walked through the damn door, went and got a case of the Seki, the king size one, whatever the big pack is. He went and got that motherfucker. Walked right out the store. In the parking lot, they out there doing donuts. They got another country flag held up, burning vehicles. Now, didn't I tell y'all in September? I told y'all in September, y'all know what's coming to y'all, California, and I hate it because we're gonna lose some citizens because of it. True story. You wanna know why? Because DT done sent the military out there, and that changes everything. Oh, it don't? You remember when I told y'all in September 2024 when I said, did y'all hear with Kamala and Biden, the meeting they just had? Now I want the video to get taken down, and TikTok, this is not fictional. If you deem me wrong, then take it down. But then I'll be able to sue you for misrepresentation. In September, Biden and Kamala had a meeting and signed off that if deemed accessible and doable and responsible, that the Congress can sign off on one thing, and it's never ever had been done in our history of American citizens. And that's harm an American citizen on domestic soil. That changed in September. Oh yeah, the National Guard has the right. If you decide to be a humanoid for these immigrants, illegal immigrants, they have a right and can be deemed right to unalive you if they seem threatened.
All right. And we basically hear what it is that Jake is saying. And we know all of these things are a part of prophecy, man, that the Lord is ultimately going to allow these things to take place. And we know Esau, Edom on the left-hand side, he's ultimately orchestrating a lot of these things because, you know, this goes hand in hand with his new world order, which it is that he wants to bring forth, man. You know, it's going to happen, you know, because it's all part of the Lord taking this man down. So he's going to allow him to do these things, you know, for a short period of time before ultimately the Lord returns and takes down this man's kingdom, of course. But we know these things will happen, man. You know, you will have, you know, American military that will be, you know, harming American citizens, man. It's only a matter of time, man, you know, and we're already seeing the beginning of those things taking place now with everything that is happening with these riots and these protests. Sooner or later, you know, Trump is going to give that order, man, for the military to, you know, start putting people down, man, you know, because it all goes hand in hand with biblical prophecy. And I'm going to go to a precept just touching on that because the prophet Esdras saw that, man, that what was happening, right, in the latter days, which is the time that we're in now, right? This is 2nd Esdras chapter 15, right? And I'm going to go all the way straight to the point. I'm going to go to verse 15. It said, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, right? That's what we see happening now on a small scale, but it's going to intensify, right? Because, you know, we're about to come into some times like never before, man. As it tells you in St. Matthew 24 and 21, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. So we're about to come into a time like never there was since there was a nation on the earth, man. We're about to come into some very evil times, right? And this is verse 16. It says, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power, right? And that's what you see happening on a small scale now with what's going on in LA with, you know, basically the Northern Kingdom and all of those people that are out there involved in those protests, ultimately going up against the government, you know, and things of that nature, because that's what the word sedition means. It basically means people rising up against the government, man, an authority figure, right? And it says they will not regard their kings nor princes. That's talking about the government. That's talking about the police. All of these things that you see people doing now, man. But like I said, it's going to continue to grow And like what Jake said in the video, that's why you got Trump signing these executive orders, sending the military out to these states, man. And mind you, you got all of these other states that are getting involved in these protests as well. So it's about to be a matter of time, but they're about to lock this place America down, man, because that all goes hand in hand with this man's New World Order, you know. And it says, verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And the reason he won't be able to move around freely, because like I said, they're going to use the military, right, to lock this place America down, man, due to all of the chaos and things that are about to be happening in this place soon to come, man. They're going to have to lock this place down. And like I said, we know ultimately that's Esau, Edom's agenda. Anyway, you know, to lock this place down, to ultimately have military checkpoints set up, 15-minute cities controlling everybody, and ultimately to implement that MOTBC hit, man, because we know that's what all of these things that are happening is leading up to, man. You know, that chip being mandated, right? But they just need the event or, you know, the certain situation to happen to ultimately to, you know, be able to try to smooth it in there, man, because they're not going to just be able to, you know, bring the chip in. They got to bring it in a, you know, covert, you know, cunning, manipulative type of way, you know, as it tells you in 2 Corinthians 2:11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we're not ignorant of his devices, man. So he's going to bring it in a way that, you know, people are not going to be expecting it. And what better more than the situation that we see occurring now? Now, if this situation gets worse, which we know it will, because prophecy tells us that it's going to get worse. So that's going to be everything in which it is that Esau needs to, you know, set up his system, man. You know, set up that New World Order system, that beast system, set up that MOTBC, you know, set up his digital society that he ultimately wants to be in place, man. You know, that's what all of these things are leading up to, right? So I'm going to go to, I'm going to get back into the video. But yeah, these things are coming, brothers and sisters. We're living in that time now. You know, that's why the Lord tells us in 2 Esdras chapter 9, right? I'm going to get that precept real quick. And I'm going to start at verse 1. It said, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And when thou seest parts of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, right? And we measure the times with ultimately reading the scriptures, man, and seeing what the scriptures say. And we look at what's happening in the world, right? Which is everything which the scriptures said will be happening in the last days. And we see those things happening, man. So that's how we're able to measure the times, right? This is verse 2. Then shalt thou understand that it is very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Talking about our Lord Yahushua, man, right? Verse 3. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, and ain't that's what you seeing happening around the world, you know, earthquakes in diverse places, you know, people uproaring, protests in this place, America, right along in other parts of the world where these wars and things of that nature are taking place at, right? This is verse 4. Then shalt thou well understand that the Most High Yahweh spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning, right? Going into what I read earlier in Isaiah 46:10, man. The Lord have declared all of these things from the beginning of creation. And now we're just playing them out now, right? Verse 5, for like as all that is made in the world have a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest, right? And when you go into that word manifest, it goes into something that's revealing itself. So we can see the end revealing itself through the signs that are happening in the earth, man. Through everything that we see occurring, right? So yeah, I just had to get that, but I'm gonna get back into this video real quick.
To unalive you if they seem threat. Now they're showing the videos already because they want you guys to, they want to put it in your face, guys. This is dangerous. They want to put it in your face. Look what they doing to us. They throwing bricks at our ICE agents. They burning vehicles.
Right, and Jake is right. And that's what Esau is doing. He's going to play the victim, you know, as it says, you know, ordo ab chaos, you know. Ultimately, we know that this devil, you know, on the left-hand side, because that's what the position the Lord have given him to ultimately to take peace from the earth. So, you know, he's going to act like, you know, his military and all of those people are being, you know, just bombarded, you know, by these people and things of that nature, because that's going to give them the power to ultimately to take it upon themselves to start putting them down, man, which is what's going to happen as well, you know. And I'm going to go to a precept just touching on that. Because that's ultimately what Esau wants to happen. He wants these people to get out of control and to lose their cool and to do what it is that, they're doing now, man. So that ultimately gives him a reason, right, to, do what he does, which is what Jake is going into by, he said, Kamala and Biden passed that law to where, U.S. military soldiers can kill and harm American citizens, man. That law was passed in September, right before Joe Biden got out of the office, man. Right? So that's what they're doing, man. They're all of these things are playing forth for prophecy, man. Because you're going to have the American military, doing what they're doing to these American citizens, man. It's already prophesied, right? This is 2nd Esdras chapter 13, right? And I'm going to start at verse 29. It said, behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth, right? And that's talking about his elect. He's going to deliver them when all hell breaks loose, before that nuclear destruction ultimately befalls upon America, Babylon the Great. The Lord's elect is going to be beamed up in the chariots, man. And we're coming into that time now, man. We're seeing everything that's happening in this place. We know it's only a matter of time before the Lord makes his second return, man, as I read in 2nd Esdras 9:2, right? So this is verse 30. It said, and he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth, right? And this is the point, verse 31. It says, and one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, one realm against another, right? So you're going to have the U.S. military fighting against his own citizens, man. All of these things are going to take place, And the Lord is controlling all of it, man. This is all Yahweh Shem Yahushua's movie, man. And he's the one that's ultimately narrating everything in which it is that we see occurring. That's why it tells you this scripture right here that we're not going to be able to make it in these times unless we're of the Lord's elect, man. Because we're about to come into some very deadly serious times, man. And they're already starting, right? So I'm going to go to Daniel chapter 12. And I'm going to start at verse 1 in the KJV, because this is the time that we're in, right? And it says, and at that time shall Michael, right, stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, because Michael is going to stand up to protect the Lord's elect, man, during these times of Jacob's trouble, and the hour of temptation and all of the things that are about to come upon this place, Babylon, man, right? And it said, and there shall be a time of trouble such as was never since there was a nation, even to that same time, right? And it says, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. And that's only talking about the 1/3 remnant, the 144,000, the elect, man, of the nation of Israel. They're going to be, ultimately delivered in these terrible times that are coming. But 2/3 of our people and everybody else in this place, America, man, they're going to find their fate in this place, Babylon the Great, man. It tells you that in Zechariah 13:8, and I'm going to go to that through the Spirit just to prove it that, the Lord is only going to care about that 1/3 remnant, man. Everybody else, they're going to get caught up in these terrible times, man. The Lord is not going to have mercy upon them, right? And ultimately it's because they don't, mainly 2/3 of our people, they don't have an understanding of the scriptures. They're not even going to know what times it is we're living in. That's why it tells you in Isaiah 33:6 that knowledge and wisdom, right, of the Bible shall be the stability of thy times, man. So us having this word and having this understanding according to the scriptures is what's going to keep us stable during these horrific times while everybody else, is going to be out here losing their damn minds, man, and bugging out, right? This is Zechariah 13:8, and it shall come to pass that in all the land, talking about this place America, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein should be cut off and die, talking about you 2/3 of the nation of Israel, but the third shall be left therein, right? And that third is only talking about, that third part is talking about the 1/3, which is a small remnant, talking about the Lord's elect, man, who's he's going to have favor upon when all this hell begins to break loose, right? Who he's going to keep from the hour of temptation, who he's going to keep from the teeth of wild beasts and all of these other different judgments that the Lord is getting ready to bring forth, man. Because, it's about to get crazy out here, man, So I'm going to get back into this video.
Burning vehicles. It's a lot of other good stuff that's going on there right now, but the media is not, they haven't been given the address to go report the information. The only addresses they're getting is what's going back what the military is getting ready to do. Now in September, they signed that now you could be unalived by our own military. Y'all remember that movie Bad Boys 2? You remember when they got the sister? And the first thing he said was, we got to get to an American embassy. It wasn't because they was police officers. It was because they knew when they get there, as long as they identified themselves as American citizens, they couldn't be touched. They couldn't be unalived. They can be detained, but they can't be unalived. And what do you do when they got to the car? I'm a citizen. I pay my damn taxes. You remember? No longer exists. So what you guys getting ready to see that's on its way to California? And I seen a guy standing on the top. He turned this up. The guy who was standing on top of the burning vehicle with the flag that wasn't American. Y'all can thank him, because he the real reason they was like, we need something good. It was like that movie Purge. Like when they was scheming, we need to find something good. We need something good to be able. We can't send them. We can't send them. Does the military not seem like they're hiring mercenaries now? Does it not seem that way? Now, California, I don't feel bad for you because you brought this on yourselves. Yeah, remember you brought this on yourselves. We gonna stand and y'all let them go out there. They blocked down your interstates. Had your traffic backed up 4 or 5 hours. People was turning down loads because they said, about time I get to drop this load off, I could have did 2 other loads and double my money, or made the same money and still got it done within time. You see what you done did to your state? Now the children can't go outside. You did not protect your family because the children can't go outside and be safe now. I just seen one video of a reporter. It just seemed like it was staged. She was sitting there. She said what she had to say, and then she like after the word, she was just like, all right, it should be coming any minute. Oh, whoa! I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm telling y'all, it's a coincidence. They gonna give you signs. They gonna give you signs. Oh, it's laws of the land. It's the rules of the laws of the land. Now you think about that movie Purge. What happened when it wasn't enough going on? What they do? They ignited it. They said the fire ain't burning enough for what we getting ready to do. We not gonna be able to explain, or let's just say, I don't want to use that word. They might take the video down. They wouldn't be able to explain their reactions. Let's just say that. Okay. What's getting ready to happen in California is getting ready to get bad. It's getting ready to get awful.
Right. And you heard what it is that Jake ultimately said. He said that they want to see the people ultimately doing the things that they're doing, because that ultimately gives them justification to react in the way that they're about to react. And what way is that? I'm going to go to this precept right here, because this is what's about to come into fruition, man. Right? What all the men of the Lord have been warning you, so-called Negro, Latinos, Native American Indians, what's about to take place. And this is what's coming. This is Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. Therefore rejoice ye heavens and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil, Esau, Edom, right, so-called white man, is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. All right. So that's what we're about to see happen, man. Esau, he's about to use all of these riots and protests that are happening throughout the U.S. as a justification to come down on you Israelites heavy, man. Right. Because he knoweth that he only have a short time of rule, man. Right. Going back to what I read earlier, 2nd Ezra 6 and 9. He knows he's coming to the end of his rulership. Right. So, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Lord's willing, I pray it be edifying. To the next time, I'm going to say shalom to the elect.